Welcome, everybody, to the Winning Twice podcast. I'm your host, Austin Cheviron, and I got a good friend of mine, Mr. Don Hobbs, on today. Don, this is going to be a treat for me and for all of them. So thank you for coming on and investing the time today here with us.
Buddy, I am so stoked to be here with you. I'm always excited to be around you. You know that I come over to see you when you're in town, whatever. I love you. I think you're fantastic. And I'm so happy that we get a chance to do this thing together and kind of pour into people together, because I know between the two of us, one of us knows something.
What? I think that's a pretty true statement, everyone. Well, let's, here's what I want to do. I want to take them back and let's establish your background, what you've done, because as we give them the golden nuggets and the wisdom, I want to know where it's coming from. So take me back to 17, 18, 19-year-old Don Hobbs.
Yeah. So, we don't have to go quite 17, but 18 years old, I pop out of high school and I meet a guy by the name of Jim Rohn. You know very well who he is. If our listeners don't, please look him up. Yeah. He's very findable on YouTube. It was one of the OGs of the personal growth world. And I happened to run into him both at an early age, but also in early stages of his career, because he was in his 30s, I believe, at that time. And Jim turned out to be, an influence over millions and millions of people. And I just happened to catch him at the right time. Went to his program. It was a date night. And I remember my mom bought me a ticket. My mom thought actually, she didn't think it would help me. She said, I think after seeing this guy, you and he think a lot alike, which was pretty cool.
How
in
cool
hindsight,
is that?
right? And went to his program on a date night, like, what does a 18-year-old want to do with a personal growth, whatever. And partway through, he takes a break and I walked right up to him and I said, I want to do what you do. Like, I love this. This is amazing. I'm taking copious notes and sitting in a room that was way beyond my then years capacity. Business people, all, 3-piece suits and all the dressed up, whatever of the time. And it's been like more than a few years. Anyway, I ended up buying all of his stuff. I bought his stuff. And of course, I'm 18 years old. So I'm out working my butt off and putting money into his weekend seminar. Went up to his ranch up in Northern California. And there I said to him, how do I work for you? And that was magic, because that really changed the course of everything for me. Went to work for Jim. I was 18. By the way, a big gawky kid that some of you'll know named Tony Robbins walked into our camp about 3 months later. He was 17. So Tony and I got to work together as kids for 5 years, and then he went off to go do some silly firewalk thing or whatever, and which is another great story. But anyway, I stayed on and became Jim's president of his company and ran his company from my age 24 to 26. It was a great foundation. I mean, you just got to say, it was a great foundation, thought process, personal growth, life change, just so many things, And then after I left his company, which was a series of events, he married a woman who wanted to run the company, and I was running it. And I didn't know what to do except to quit. So I quit and started a company which turned out to be pretty game changing. I had been pretty well known in the real estate space in Rohn's company. I was pretty well known in the real estate space, and real estate was blooming. It was like the age of the new franchise world, and all mom and pops were joining these big companies and wearing gold coats and powder blue coats, all polyester, of course. And in that time frame, I got a chance to build a company called Hobbs Herder Advertising, and I think that's kind of how you and I ended up connecting.
I'm gonna get there after the story. Yep, keep going. Yep.
And it was a big deal. It was our foundation was all personal branding and marketing, and was really about how do we get the agent to stand out, which is the same question we'd be asking today. In real estate, but in any business, how do you get yourself to stand out from this crowded industry? And every industry is crowded. Every business is crowded, and you've got to figure out how do you separate yourself from the masses and have people go, I like him. He's my guy. And in real estate, that was the question. Here's my girl. Here's my agent. And we built all the personal branding and marketing things. We taught, we trained, we had an ad agency. We built about 150 employees through time, and we're pushing out amazing amounts of personal branding and marketing, all custom, all cool, like an ad agency. We were really an ad agency just for an industry that doesn't typically think that way.
Mm.
And so that's what we built. And that worked out really well. And in 2010, I had retired from, actually in 8, I retired in 2010. I was completely out. And a guy by the name of Gary Keller called me and said, "Hey, let's do some things together." And Gary was the founder of Keller Williams, and we'd known each other for a lot of years. Um, some other cool stories. Again, as far as we want to take all these stories, I got a gazillion of them. Uh, and so we ended up coming together. I moved from California to Austin, Texas, where their headquarters was, built a company there with him. Um, Along that time, I met a beautiful blonde who you know very well. She's up there upstairs right now. And I was doing my darndest to get in her world. My inside joke is, 50 First Dates is a nothing movie because I had 150 first dates. It took me forever to land that plane.
She made
And
you work for her.
she did, right? It was
Yeah.
hard. Anyway, that worked out, and we ended up doing some business together in real estate and coaching and training, and just had a blast. And somewhere about 2020, when COVID hit, I got a chance to do kind of my next thing, which was take over Success Magazine. And so I was president of Success for a short while, a year and a half. It was a little bit like a job, and I hadn't had a job since I was 18.
I can't
So
imagine having a job anymore. I don't know what I would do.
it wasn't great having a job, but I loved. I mean,
Yeah.
Austin, you have to appreciate. I mean, maybe you want to talk about this later, but you have to appreciate that I'm starting with Jim Rohn at 18 years old. He's my father figure. He's like my dad. Honestly, when
Yeah.
he died, I was talking to him all the time, and I sent him a video, and I just said, like, "You were my dad." I didn't have a great relationship with mine, so it was like he was easy to
Yeah.
adopt. And here I'm at Success Magazine, and guess who owns all the IP for Jim Rohn? Success Magazine.
Success.
So
Yeah.
I'm coming back to material that I actually was in the room recording back in 1980.
That just gives me chills. I
Yeah,
mean,
it
it's one of those moments where you're supposed to be there,
yeah, it was pretty
right?
special. It was pretty special. I can almost tear up on that one. Uh,
Yeah.
it was really cool coming back to that and having this foundation, this ground roots, and going, we got all this playground with Jim, and he's gone. He's been gone 17 years now, but
Yeah.
but I still got him. He's still with me, and so anyway, that's been fun. And then Alice and I just keep coaching and training and impacting people, and a lot of it's in real estate, but some of it's not. So
Yeah.
that
Okay.
probably is
Let's
way more
honor
history than you wanted.
No, that's I wanted it for me. I mean, I love this stuff because, I mean, when people look at a life, it's like, what do you make of it? Who do you surround yourself with? You said it, Don. I went and asked him for a job, and it was probably the best thing I ever did. I went, other than the one upstairs, I went and
Right.
asked him for the job. And it's
Yeah,
like and you walked up to him at the conference, you walked up to him. And
yeah,
everyone's always missing that small little gap. And it's like, well, did you take the chance when it was there? Did you take the chance? Well,
right.
let's honor Jim a little bit. I did not get the pleasure of being in his proximity. So I'm going to utilize this time right now a little bit, and I can still learn. So share with me like the top 2 things he taught you. And maybe they never came out of his mouth. Maybe it was just about being in his environment and watching him as a man. But what like sticks out, the top couple things?
Well, his philosophy was basically rooted in, for things to change for you, you've got to change it. It all starts here. It's here. Attitude is everything. It's how we see life. It's the filter through which all things are seen. So if I'm looking in the world and my attitude's great, I'm seeing awesome. And if I'm,
Yeah.
not, then I'm seeing train wreck and tragedy and all that. As a result of all that, I don't watch the news. People call me ignorant. That's okay. Yes, if something big happens, it's going to be on social media. Somebody's going to call me. I'm going to hear about it. And if it ain't that, then I don't give a darn. It doesn't impact my world. My
Mm,
world is, that and the people surrounding me in my corner of the world. And so, um, I think that was a big part of it. It really changed. how I saw life. That was probably the biggest deal for me then. And then I think the other part that was really interesting was to watch how he navigated business life. He was very that thinking, that positive thinking was like when stuff went wrong, he's like, that's all right, it's gonna be okay. Like it's gonna
Yeah.
be okay. This is a moment. This is not life. This is just a moment. And I think that was pretty powerful. I remember, room not being set right, and I'm chasing around trying to get hotel people, and he's like, it's gonna be fine. It's okay. And
Yeah.
just to know that it's like rolling with it, that life is a process and it's not cataclysmic event after cataclysmic event. It's not. It's we make it drama if we want to, but it's not that. I think those
Yeah.
were two of the biggies. I mean, clearly,
Those
most of what I think in terms of my use of time, I did get. I remember being 19 and finally getting what he was trying to tell me when I realized that everybody sitting in that room that night with me, this kid, they had the same amount of time I had. And yet some of them were producing at very different rates. It was clear to me. And working with him, I got to meet some pretty major people, and I realized they all had the same amount of time. And so time became a real study of mine, like how we use it, what we do with it. And I always say that time is the great equalizer, but it's also additionally the great unequalizer because it's our use of it that makes, a Bezos
Yeah.
and somebody else at a different level producing at that level, right? We won't
Yeah.
call them losers because it's just sometimes temporary, but to say that people don't achieve and there's somebody else and in the same time frame, Gates is making millions an hour or a minute or a
Yeah.
day, and somebody else is like, I struggle to make 30,000 this year. It's like there's something about the way we value ourselves, the self-love part of that, and value growth and how we see ourselves, and then how we hold ourselves as valuable, not in an ego sense, but in a sense of worth,
Yeah,
self-worth,
that's exactly
right?
right. Yeah. It's
So
funny. My wife, when I tell her what I charge, she's like, who would pay you that much? Are they stupid? Is what she literally says to me, Don. Are they stupid? What's wrong with them? You shouldn't charge them that. And I'm like, that's the value I provide to the marketplace. And I'm okay. Like, I get it. I'm okay with it.
totally,
And
totally.
she's living off of it, which is even funnier. And she's like, are
Exactly.
they
And
stupid? And I'm like, no, they're smart. They think differently than you do. It's what they have a different way of thinking.
yeah,
And it's just I have that way, you have that way. My wife's not building personal development.
well,
She
you tell
married
her
to
that she
personal
invested her
development.
whole life in you, so it was a
I
much bigger price tag,
that's
much
exact.
bigger price tag.
She did the. I remember once when we went to a Tony Robbins conference. I just got off welfare, and I'm like, everyone's like, you got to go visit Tony, and I'm like, okay. And I looked at all of his stuff from the fire walking to the most expensive one I could get to, and it was like 15 grand. And I told my wife, I'm going. She's like, we got 15 grand. I go, no, we do. We got like 16, and yeah. And so I went, it was business mastery. What I didn't account for, Don, was it was in West Palm Beach. And West Palm Beach and Fort Wayne, Indiana are like an egg sandwich in Fort Wayne's like $4.95, and West Palm Beach is like $44.95. And I did account for that. And we were tight on money. And but I remember I went back and I came back and my wife's like, what'd you get out of it? And I said, I got it. And she's like, what's that? I go, the secret to living is giving. And she's like, no. She's like, what did you get out of the conference, Austin? We just spent all this money. And I'm like, no, this is what it is. We just got to give more. And she's
Yeah,
like, is
yeah.
this the last one you're going to? And that was the start of it. And then we started going. So, well, let me, actually proud moment first. Yesterday, I just got done with my heavy lifting for book number 2, Don. So book number
Good for
2, I
you.
got I got the 23rd chapter written, and I quoted Jim in there. And the
Oh,
quote was, if you don't like where you're at, and I'm not going to say all the words right, but if you don't like where you're at, change it. You're not a tree.
you're not a
Move.
tree.
Yeah, and so I just was quoting him yesterday about that, and it's funny, that was the philosophy you were talking about. You can change. It's how you view the situations, and as I
Yep.
get older, Don, I'm always like, instead of reacting to it, I'm like, "Okay, what does this mean?"
Hmm.
Like, instead of assuming the meaning of negative or I lost something or positive, it's like, what does this really mean? And sitting back and I'm 42, but man, I'm trying to just become wiser, younger than most people if I can. So,
Yep.
well, let's
You're in the
talk about
zone,
a
baby. You're in the zone of creation at that age. That's perfect.
Well, let's
Awesome.
talk about at a young age. So at a young age, my father was a real estate agent since I've been 6. And for those of you who don't know, if you haven't heard me say it 100 times, he was also the manager of the largest coldwell banker office in the nation when I was a kid. So I hung out with the best of the best. Well, my dad was a personal education junkie. He still is, by the way. It's fun to
That's cool.
watch him. He still is. And so when I would grow up, my parents were separated. My dad would leave off of his week and I'd say, "Dad, where are you going?" Well, my dad would go to conferences on his weeks. And my dad went to a conference and I was like, "Where are you going?" He goes, "Hobbs Herder." And so growing up, Don, I heard about your company my entire childhood. And I got
Mhm.
to see the work you're doing. I remember one of the ladies here, her name was Boots Beam. You literally put her in a boot and I remember it. And so what's really funny, that was probably for 15 years, 10 years. My dad talked about this, talked about you. Well, I just happened in the EXP world. I walked in with my little avatar one day, and everyone, here's how it works, just like this. You remember Don went up to Jim. Well, I took my little avatar and I saw the word Don Hobbs above the guy's name. And I said, "Are you like really Don Hobbs?" And you're like, "Yeah, that's me." And I'm like, "I've been hearing about you my entire life." And then next thing you know, it's like we ended up in Nashville together. It was Nashville or Dallas. Allison
Dallas.
corrected me.
Yeah,
It
Dallas.
was
I remember when you
Dallas.
walked up. Yeah.
Yep.
I
And I'm
saw
like,
you in a video. I was watching a video of that the other day. I was like, Austin was right there at the next table. Like he was there that whole time.
I have your whole speech recorded. I was the biggest fan in the front row. And what's funny, everybody, is I heard about Don because my dad went to his conferences, and then I met Don, and then I stayed in relationship with Don. And that's like where you want to go in your life. It's a formula. You have to think about who's in front of me, who can help mentor me, who can guide me in a positive way, who's just good people, and then put yourself in their proximity, and then stay and give. And recently I had you asked for me to come speak down in Dallas and to give to that group.
So good.
And thank you for you asked me to stay at your house. And I'm like, I always hate as a speaker to ask. It's kind of weird to say, "Hey, could I stay with you?" But I prefer to stay with them because then I get to spend more time with you.
Right. No, we loved it,
And
man. We loved having you here. You did a great job. We loved it.
And yeah, so it's been really good, Don. I appreciate you staying in my proximity. I was going to tell Dad today that we were hanging out together, but he's I don't know, he's a month away from trying to retire, I think. So he popped in for his. I always said he comes in on Pacific time and he leaves on Eastern time now. So he comes in at 11 Pacific and leaves at 2:05 Eastern, and it's like, where did he go? But
That's funny.
yeah,
Hey,
yeah,
one thing, can we jump into that for a quick second? Because you
yeah,
just said something that's really magic, and people don't get the influence of the people around them. Rohn said it. He said, you become the 5 people that you hang around the most. I don't know if hang around was his phrase, but you become the 5 people that you're around the most. And again, if you're, we have family and we have chosen family, and chosen family are going to be the people you pick. Family is who you got, right? I mean, family is who you got.
yeah,
You got a great one, you got a not great one. That's just life and the luck of the draw and God's plan or something. But
yeah,
what I would say is then you get to choose. At some point you get to choose. And of course, most parents, and you being one, would say to their kids, watch who you hang around because they influence you, right? Or we don't like so
yeah,
and so for you to hang around because they ain't a great influence on you, right? And I think that there's a point where we have to ask ourselves as adults, when did that change? And the answer is it didn't. We're always going to be influenced by the people that we're around. we get lenient and we go, that's my friend, but yeah, I know how he is, but it doesn't really bother me. It's impacting you, I promise. And Tony Robbins took it further, and he said proximity is power, and being around people. And I remember him one day we were chatting, and he said, "You won't believe what I just did." He said, "I just got back from a trip," and he got a chance to be on a plane, a private jet with a bunch of billionaires at a time when he could not afford to do that. And very much like your $15,000, right?
Yeah.
He said yes, because he knew it was the right place to be, but he didn't know how he was going to do any of it. And literally, he said it was a life changer for him, because it was being in the right room that got him connected to so many things that turned into fortune making and philosophy changing, and like literally everything changed for him by being in that room and making that decision. And I think we forget how impactful that is. And so if you're not playing with big people, you're playing smaller than you should be.
So, okay, well, let me tell you something you didn't know. And I didn't think about this until this moment. When I went to Business Mastery, if you've never been to a Tony Robbins conference, you do a lot of touching the people next to you. Okay. And just to give you full word, it's kind of awkward if you're not a touchy person. And especially if you're not and they are next to you. And it doesn't matter if it's a male or a female, it's everybody's touching and massaging everybody. Okay, you know what I'm talking about, Don. So it's my first one, and I'm not the touchy guy. I'm the guy who's like, you got to be an arm's length away from me at all times, or you're too close to me. And so the lady next to me, never met her before. She's the opposite. She's the extrovert. And so we broke out into our little groups, and when we got done, she looks at me, she goes, "You're like a wizard." And I'm like, "Wizard? What?" She's like, "You're a wizard and I need help." Well, I started coaching and training her at that time. And her name's Madhu Baker. She might be listening to this. Well, I started working with Madhu. Well, Madhu became the #1 agent at eXp Realty. She was the #1. And when I had some turmoil over at my last company, I called her up and I said, "Hey, I was going to buy my company. That just fell through." And she's like, "You got to come over to look at eXp Realty." And I'm like, "Okay, I'll look. I don't know what I'm doing. It's not in this market." And I said, "Okay, well, what do I need to do?" She goes, "You got to come out to this conference if you want to see it. It's a virtual company." I'm like, "What's virtual?" Like, I've never heard of anything like this.
Totally.
And then, and she goes, I'm like, "Okay, well, when is it?" She goes, "Monday." I go, "It's Saturday night." I go, "Madhu, I schedule my whole year in advance. I don't," and she's, remember, I organize normally the high I's. I'm the C, she's the I. I organized her. And she's like, "If you don't see it, you'll never know what it is." And so I only had one. She sold me on coming. I only had one thing I had to get through. That was my wife at the time. And so I told my wife, I said, "Hey, I got to fly out tomorrow." She goes, "Tomorrow?" I go, "I got to be there on Monday." She goes, "Where?" And I go, "Vegas." She goes, "You've never been to Vegas." I go, "I know." And so I say that, Don, because I met the lady who helped me come over to EXP at that event. She was sitting next to me. And if I didn't meet her and go there, me and you would have probably never met, because I met you as a little avatar in some random cloud room.
Yep.
And
For sure.
and it's just like, okay, guys, so when I say all that, you're like, "Okay, yeah, it's a situation." Well, your entire life is made up of those situations and those decisions. And if you need help, January 26, 2027 is when my next book drops about decisions. This is how you,
Awesome.
once you, and if you can make enough of these right decisions and surround yourself with the right people, which is all that was. I needed to be in the room, Don. I needed to be around the thinking.
Yeah.
I needed to change my thinking and elevate it and have the positive thoughts and not the lack. And, everyone looks at, it's like, "Well, you were lucky, Don. You just happened to get in that room with Jim. It was luck." And you're like, "No, I walked up to him.
Right.
You didn't. I did. I took the chance." And for whoever's listening, it's like, that's what makes it. You gotta stick your neck out there a little bit. You gotta have that North Star and go pursue it. And next thing you know, it's like, we're hanging out in Dallas, having fun at your house. You cooked the best dinner that night too, by the way. That was amazing.
Yeah. We, I know where to buy it.
That was
You know,
great.
I think, Rohn used to say, things don't just happen, they happen just. And I think there's an element of that. I think that there are no coincidences. Things are designed, but we still have to step into them. A friend of mine used to say that all of us, it's been said, all of us have 4 or 5 life-changing, fortune-making opportunities that we come across in a lifetime. Everybody. At some
Yeah.
point, you came across 4 or 5 things. You may not have recognized them. You may not have seen them. You may not have taken advantage of it. Maybe you saw it, but I'm not in that position right now. And you turned it down. You figured out how to get to a conference.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't have to happen that way. Other people could have said, well, I don't have that kind of money. I'm never going to go. And it would not have impacted them. So again, how
Yeah.
many opportunities do we have? And at some point, you got to realize I'm running out of time on the opportunities. Like if I get 4 or 5, how many have already passed up? How many have already missed? And I think we have to be willing to take the risk and stand up for ourselves, believe enough in ourselves, and have the confidence enough, which is not always easy because we may have had circumstances that showed us we're not everything we thought we might have been when we were a kid and we're invincible and all that stuff, right? Life
Yeah.
can be, if we've made some decisions that are
Yep.
not in the best favor, we can end up in places and having lack of confidence that I make bad decisions. Well, I would just urge people to think about, don't get too tied into an identity that's attached to that. It's just things you've done. I've made mistakes. Austin, I
Yeah.
know you haven't, but I have. I've made a lot of mistakes. And it's not who I am. It's just what I did. It's a thing I did, but it's not who I am.
Yeah. That's
Who I
key.
am is
Well,
bigger than that.
I think we've done a good job of talking about the positive, but I think in all reality, if somebody's going to change, they got to talk about the negative too. And I don't know about you, but I've had to disassociate myself with people over the years for me to grow. I've had to cut the anchors in so I could fly. And I don't know who doesn't. I think we all, if we're going to grow, like you essentially are going to grow past your people that you're with because they're probably not going to grow at your speed. Does that sound right?
Right. Right. Get
So,
ready. Get ready to leave some people behind, not in love. Not, I don't mean,
yeah,
you're not going to lose the love. You may have to distance yourself from too much time because, again, we become the 5 people we are around the most. You can still be around them. And
yeah,
again, in family, you don't have choice. They're family. So unless you go, hey, I don't talk to my family anymore. But, you can measure it. My mom heard me say this one time, and she loves coming to my programs. She just loves, sits there and it's my son. And I remember saying, my mom got to a point after the Jim Rohn stuff early on. This is my early days. And I was discouraged because I wasn't an instant overnight success and I'm failing.
yeah,
And she's saying, you need to get a job. And I'm like, I'm 19. I, I'm, I got a whole future ahead of me. What happens right now is not my future. This is a time when I can afford to be broke. I can afford to do things that I can't afford to do when I got family and commitments and stuff.
yeah,
And I hung in there. But I remember saying to the audience, and she's in the room, I said there was a time when I had to distance myself from her just a little bit because
yeah,
I didn't have enough strength in me to support my ideas and overcome her ideas.
yeah.
Now that's
Sorry, Darren Hardin taught me that. Darren Hardy said, if like your
oh,
family, you don't get rid of them, you just have to limit some of your time with them. And
yeah,
sometimes it's for a period of time and sometimes it might be forever. But if
right,
your family's not completely supporting you, which maybe by the way, they shouldn't, because half the stuff we do is stupid and dumb and it doesn't work. So, hey, just
yeah,
let you know, mom might have been right, but also mom might have been wrong. But sometimes you just got to limit your time with these people because they're not going away. They're still your
right,
family.
right.
Um,
Absolutely. Love doesn't change. Like the love is still there. It's just I have to decide how much of that I need in my world right now, how much I can afford to have in my world right now.
yeah,
And, Austin, when we start, I play pickleball now, I think you know
I
that, but
love that. Yeah.
the higher up I play, the better I get. When I play down, I my game sucks. I played last night with a guy. It was brand new. And I was like, I want to help him. Everybody starts new. I started new,
Yeah.
but I didn't like, I played down. I just kept making mistakes. I'm like, oh, I hate this. So, like we just got to get around better rooms with
Mm.
better people that are thinking the way we want to think, the direction we want to go.
That's
And
hard though, Don. It's mentally hard. I've actually had to work with myself through this, and I just let everybody know I have hundreds of hours of therapy in me. So like there's help. But a lot of us go from being the worst of the worst to the best of the worst. And if you're willing to take the leap, then you're the worst of good. And then you become the best of good. And then if you're willing to take a leap again, you'll become the worst of the best. Well, the problem is once you get to the top, like I'm doing good, I'm making the money, everybody looks at me like I'm amazing, I get playing time, and then you jump up to becoming the worst of the best. And I don't get stage time. I don't get the opportunities. I don't get the promotion. And I feel like I'm like the best. And I'm not talking about me, but like I have gone through this.
yeah,
Is I went from being the best college quarterback to the professional that's third string now on the bench. And it's like, it's an identity piece. It's like, who
totally.
am I now? And it's tough, Don.
Yeah.
It's tough.
Yeah, it
But,
is
but,
for sure.
but if I look at the rooms that I'm competing, it's like, it was me and Tom Ferry were the two names, and Austin's never gets caught. I would never get caught. Tom's the one that gets, but I was still in the room. I was still in the conversation. It's like,
Oh, you were
wow,
on the
this is great.
same stage, buddy. You were on the same stage with him.
See, I need reminded of that every once in a while. Yeah,
You weren't in the
it's
room. I was in the room. You were on the stage.
it's it's funny, and I share that with everybody because if you choose to become great, there's things you'll mentally have to work through along the way. And limiting your time with your friends and understanding that to say, am I better than them? Am I acting like I'm better than them? And what I've realized is I've made the choice for me. I am going to become the best version of me, which means I'm growing. And then it's their choice if they want to come with me or not. It's not my choice. And if they don't want to go, there's nothing wrong with that. I just say, hey, I'll love you from afar. But I got to keep going. And I've grown, Don, I've grown out of like every room I've ever been in.
I
And I
know. I'm
just
sure you
kept,
have.
I just,
You're that guy.
and it's a pursuit. And
Yeah.
that's why I'm hanging out with you now. That's why me and you get to have barbecue from, what was the place? We'll give them a little promotion. That was good
Hutchins.
stuff.
We'll give him a shameless plug. Hutchins.
Yeah, that was
Right.
great stuff.
It's the best. And it's the best.
Eh,
You
Yeah,
know, so no conversation would be complete without the failures. And you said earlier coming off welfare, so it was an allusion to, alluding to the fact, right? I remember showing up to my office. Here we are trying to build this company. We've got employees, and I show up to my building, and there's a big padlock and chain around the door, so we can't open it. And the sheriff had locked us out because we didn't pay our rent, and we had they'd sued
yep,
us or whatever. And
yeah,
right, I mean, there's no path to success is straight up, and if it is for a while, beware, it's going to flatten out, or it could even come down, right? Like
yeah,
there's no path that goes straight up, only straight up. There's not a success story that you and I would read in any of the books that you and I cherish, the stuff that's behind me or you. And there's nobody that would tell a story that was like nothing but success. You're going to go
yeah,
through the failures. You're going to go through this stuff. It's going to feel like crap. It's, you're going to doubt yourself. I certainly have more than a few times. And that doesn't always, it's not just like at some point you don't go back there. Again, it's like
yeah,
this.
yep,
On screen here, it's like this. I don't know what you're seeing, but
yeah. I'm seeing it.
it's right. It's up and down and up and down. It's just the downs don't typically go down as far as we once did. I remember meeting Donald Trump 100 years ago. I mean, way before president stuff, and I remember him saying it was right after he'd lost so much money. I mean, hundreds of millions of dollars. I don't think it was billions, but it was hundreds of millions. And he's walking through the streets of New York and he sees a homeless person. And he said, do you know that guy is worth more than I am right now? Because he was so far below zero. The banks, hundreds of millions. I'm so far below where that guy is right now. Right. And it's just a fact of that
Yeah, it's
path to
funny when
success.
I hear you say that, my team, and for some years we had a not a large internal team, but I had, a half a dozen to a dozen employees, and then today I don't anymore, and not for good reasons or bad, just as I'm continuing my journey.
Yeah.
But one thing I had to remind them of, because working with me, I'm not like them. I don't think like them. I don't act like them. Um, and I had to let them know I'm always willing to make the next right decision. And that was the separation between their thinking and my thinking. Their thinking was, well, we
Good.
just did all this and we just invested $20,000 in this onboarding process. And I'm like, but the next right decision says to drop it. And they're like, but we can't. We just did. I'm like, no, we would choose not to. And I remember this very clearly because it drove them nuts. And, the word around the office was always pivot. We're always pivoting. We're always moving. And, yeah, it was like it drove them crazy, but I knew my job was to make the next right decision. And what analogy that I use with my coaching clients now is we don't determine where we're going to go on vacation based off of what's in our luggage. Right? And
Oh,
that's
I
what
love that.
it's
That's one of the
good, isn't
wisest
it?
things I've ever heard, and I've heard you say it, and I think that is one of the genius things, right?
That's what everybody does. They take around all of their luggage, their yesterday, last month, last year, childhood. They take it around and they make decisions based off of it. And really, it just should be wisdom, but not like if I got a parka and gloves and I want to go to the beach, if I look at my luggage, then what do I go up to Alaska? It's like, well, I don't want to go to Alaska. So just leave that stuff and make the next right decision. And it sounds
Right.
easy and it's really tough, but you just
Yeah.
got to have that vision that pulls you forward.
There's
So,
so many notes from this time together that I wanted to take. So you got to send me
okay.
this because I'm sitting here going, I can't be writing right now. I'm supposed to be talking right now.
Well, let me do this. Let me fast forward. What are you up to nowadays? What's Don Hobbs' life look like now?
Yeah. So we do a lot of speaking. So I'm speaking quite a bit. More and more actually. Funny enough, we were living in Puerto Rico for 5 years or 4 years,
Yeah.
as you know. And while I was there, it was hard to get. You had to fly 5 hours to get to Dallas to get anywhere else, or 3 hours to get to Miami to get anywhere else. So I didn't do nearly as much. It was a lot of virtual stuff, and I'm just excited to be back in near DFW, and I can fly anywhere quickly, and so I'm doing a lot of stuff in that regard. And I love that. I love being in front of crowds. I love watching people's eyes light up when they get it. It's
Mm,
what I've done for so long. It just feeds me. And I know that it's a great symbiotic relationship between me and my audiences. And so I love that. We, in the coaching realm, a lot of my stuff revolves around marketing, personal branding, marketing,
mhm,
that kind of stuff. The question is eternally, how do you separate yourself from others? It's,
yeah.
there's crowded fields in every field, and we have a lot of realtor influence. And so realtors, there's still probably 1.5 million of them, I think, close to
Yeah.
that in the world, in the US. And it's too many. Doesn't mean I want them all to leave, but it's too many. And the question is, how do I stand out from the flock? And so we build brands, we write stories. I think maybe you're a friend of yours, Donald Miller's Story Brand. I've always
Mhm.
believed in storytelling. Your dad heard me say that years ago. Um, we got to tell great stories, and then the social stuff comes from that, and what we put out comes from that. But we got to have a story. So we build stories for people, and I think that's a pivotal part of any business, of any human being in business. They got to have a story. I look at what most people say on their
Yeah.
their bios and stuff, and it's like, I'm a realtor, or I own the business. I really care about people, and I'm like, oh come on, everybody says that. Like nobody goes,
Yeah.
I'm a liar, I'm a cheat, I'm a thief, and I love taking people's money. Nobody says that. Everybody says good stuff. So like we have
Yeah.
to tell craft stories and craft quality stuff, and so we do a lot of that, and that's really where I spend most of my time. Coaching individuals is a great pleasure. Coaching in groups is a great pleasure. So mostly it's always been about being of service. I love that. I just do.
Yeah.
If you can find something you do for free, you found a place you'll never work. And I'm kind of in that boat, and I've proven it many times by doing it for free. And, you helped us out, right? You came here. How do I know you love it so much? You came here, and we didn't have any budget for that
Yeah.
thing that we
Nope.
did together. It's like,
Yeah.
but you
Just,
can't do
hey,
that all the time. Like at some
uh,
point, you can't be a nonprofit. You're not built
yeah.
that way,
It
and I'm
depends.
not
Yeah,
either.
it
But
definitely depends where your business. And you said something key there. And when people hear it, Don, I think they agree. But if they actually tried to implement it, it's really tough. Which is like, I don't do anything. I don't do anything that I wouldn't do for free anymore. So I don't do it for a fee if I wouldn't do it for free. Is, I think, the phrase that I said. And it sounds easy. Thank you. But like all my clients, my one-on-one clients I work with, I let them know, like, I'll work with you for free. That's literally my top client, my longest client. I think I threw them completely sideways one time. And we are getting ready to start the year, Don. And I said, hey, I'll work this entire year for free. And they're, 60 to 100,000 a year clients. And they're like, what do you mean? What's the catch? And I said, I just love working with you so much. I'll do this for free. And I'm like, no BS. And they're like, what's the catch? I go, you can't have a time slot on my calendar. Like, just when I'm free, I'll call you and we'll hang out, and it might be more, it might be less. I don't
that's
know.
cool.
And they're like, you serious? I go 100%. And they go, we'll take the slot and pay you. And but I was serious. Like, I was willing to lose a heavy 5 to 6 figure client, and just take them into the free world. And people would be like, why would you do that? And this and that. Because if you don't love what you do, and if you're not doing it with the right people, then it's like you're in prison and you got a job, and you got to change this. And one of the ways to change it, Don, I guess I'll make a little shameless plug here. Get your money right. If you don't get your money right, life's tough. Get a copy of the money puzzle, go do the work. Oh, Don's got his copy there too. Oh, your ears are close. There, you got it. That's
My
it
ears
right
were at
there.
their limit.
Get a copy and go do. Look, guys, this is it. If you don't figure this out, you're going to have to work and do things the rest of your life that you don't want to do. And money's tough. I mean, Don, what were you taught about money?
Oh, uh, I don't know that I was ever taught it was the root of all evil, but it was hard. I know it was hard. It was, it's not easy to get. It's not easy to keep. I remember things of robbing Peter to pay Paul. That was the favorite phrase in my household.
Mm.
It was a favorite phrase. And there was no learning around money. There was no understanding of money, and there was certainly no keeping of capturing any of it.
Yeah.
It was just passing through. So the work was just to get through another day. And so that's kind of miserable. Um, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway,
My
your
life.
your your stuff on money when you came, and I mean between the book and what you shared with us when you came, I got to tell you, you're so wise, and I love that you wrote this book for your kids. And I don't know if you've said that. I hope you haven't. I hope
No,
I'm
no,
not
that's
spoiling
okay.
something
Yeah.
or wrecking
No,
it.
no,
But
no, you're good.
but I love that you wrote it for your kids, because what would you do in that case? You'd want to tell your kids the very best stuff, and give them a real picture of what life is like as it pertains to money.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's so great about your book. You didn't write a book for the sake of writing a book. You wrote a book to
You
teach lessons to
you want to
somebody
know
that really matters to you.
what's funny is, so before the book was the wealth program. So there's an actual online me training it online, pretty much that book, and it's called Wealth. It's on my website. And what was funny, I spent 60 days. I locked myself in my office at home for 60 days to write the program, Don. And the only way you can do that, by the way, is to make sure you have your money right. Because if not, you're going to be like, I got to make money today. So after 30 days, I called my cousin Nate and I said, "Hey, Nate, I think we got a problem." He goes, "What's that?" I go, "I didn't write anything about making money." He's like, "What do you mean?" I go, If I'm writing a book on wealth and a program and I didn't write anything, Don, on making money," I go, "I don't think anybody's going to want to listen and read and watch this." And he goes, "Well, was it true what you wrote?" I go, "Absolutely." He goes, "Then keep writing." And 60 days later, or 30 more days after that, 60 days total, I had the program, I had the outline. And I went back, and still to this day, the only thing in there about really making money is how you think about your worth and of what you charge. That's it.
Totally.
And
Totally.
and somebody would say, "Well, does that even make sense?" And what I've learned is making it's half of it. Keeping it and using it as a tool is the other half. And most of us, I mean, you're around real estate agents, I've been my whole life. It's always make, 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 but there's never teaching lessons about how to keep and how to give and how to invest. And it's like, well, if we just make and don't do that, good luck in life. That's going to be a tough life.
Right. Well,
So,
you said that. I was thinking that when I think about who we're being, who we're becoming, mostly who we're being, because I believe we were born perfect. I mean, and then we learned a lot of stuff, right, that doesn't serve us. But I think if it always comes down to, like you said, self image, or that wasn't the word you used, but it was like, it's about, you have to learn. I'm teaching money, but it's not money. It's about
yeah.
our thinking, right? And personal branding, it's not about personal branding. It's about, are you willing to show up? Are you willing to be bigger? Are you willing to allow yourself to be seen?
Mm.
Because otherwise, there ain't anything to do with the personal branding and marketing. You're not going to do stuff, right? Unless you can allow that, which means I got to have not an ego, but a healthy self image and know my value. So
Mm.
it comes back to that again and again, Austin. It's like it's a recurring theme.
Love it.
I
Well,
got to
Don, I'm
learn.
going to finish two
I got
questions here. If you were to give one piece of advice to an entrepreneur, what would that be?
marketing rules. Whatever your business is, you think it's about real estate, you think it's about roofing, you think it's about whatever you think it's about. It ain't. It's about marketing. It's a marketing game, and the best roofer, the best therapist, the best physical therapist, they don't win the game. The winner is the marketer.
Mm.
Marketing is at the cornerstone of everything. And I don't mean fake. I just mean that how you show yourself is going to be critical. And
Love it.
and it doesn't matter if it's a corporation, you got a job. Marketing is still the key.
Well,
Everything.
everybody listening, the last time I did marketing with my groups, do you know who I called to come in and teach? Wasn't me. It was Don Hobbs, everybody.
That's
When
it.
I need market, I need Don. So Don, if they want to get a hold of you, what's the best way to reach out to you? How do they find you?
My uh, you can go right to my social media. I'm at the real Don Hobbs in some cases, and the Don Hobbs in other cases, but you'll find me very easily. You can also, I'm gonna. Do I dare give out a phone number?
You could do whatever you dare. Well, I mean, I'll give them your phone number if they ask. So I think it's all the same, right? If they can find me, they find you. So,
You just
uh,
text me and say you are a friend of Austin's, and I'm going to take your call, or
yeah,
make a thing happen for you, whatever. 949-929-5185. I'm sure we'll put it in some kind of
yeah.
graphic or
We'll get it in the
something
show
here.
notes here.
But to finish off on that thought, I would love anybody who's serious about being bigger and playing bigger. I was with a client of mine yesterday, and it was so cool because I'm sitting there admiring her, going, I remember when she was a single mom, really struggling, really coming out of a marriage, bad marriage, a lot of things that were not good. And today she's seven figures, has a life, has balance, has a
Mm,
different thought process. Like, she's a different human being. And all of that's happened on my watch. And it wasn't me doing it, it was her doing it. But
yeah.
there's a part where I got to play with her. I got to play in that.
You
And
got the
I think
guide.
that's the most amazing thing in the world.
It is. It is. More people need that feeling, Don. And as someone who helps, like, I know what you're saying. I know what you're talking about. And it's like, if you're
Yeah.
willing to step up, call Don. But you got to be willing to step up. That's the key. You got to be willing to play and step up. You got to be committed in yourself. And if you are, give him a call. The guy's the best of the
That'd be
best.
great.
I've been hearing about him since I've been a kid. This guy's the best of the best, everybody. If you want to raise your
Right.
branding, you want to raise your marketing, give Don a call. So, Don, thank you for your time today on the Winning Twice podcast. I know we gave him some great life and business pieces here. So I appreciate your time, my friend.
I appreciate you. The best, man. Talk to you
Thanks.
later.
Thanks, Don. Thanks for listening to this episode of Winning Twice. Each week, we drop a new episode with business owners, entrepreneurs, and high performers. We talk about life, vision, success, failure, and what it really takes to win professionally and personally. If you want to listen to more episodes, visit my website, austinchevron.com. Thanks again for being here, and I'll see you on the next episode of Winning Twice.